Imagine standing in the middle of an endless desert. The sun burns above your head. Giant pyramids rise from the sand. And somewhere deep beneath them, ancient kings sleep beside mountains of gold. This is ancient Egypt, a civilization so advanced, so mysterious, and so powerful that even today, thousands of years later, the world is still obsessed with it. They built impossible monuments, created one of the first great empires, turned dead bodies into mummies, and worshiped gods with animal heads. But how did ancient Egypt begin? How did it become one of the greatest civilizations in human history? And what finally caused its collapse? Tonight, we're uncovering the complete story of ancient Egypt. To understand Egypt, we first need to understand one thing: the Nile River. Without the Nile, ancient Egypt would never have existed. Almost all of Egypt was deadly desert, dry, hot, and impossible to farm. But every year, something magical happened. The Nile flooded, and when the water pulled back, it left behind rich black soil. So rich, crops could grow everywhere. While other civilizations struggled to survive, Egypt had food, and food meant power. Villages appeared along the river, then towns, then cities. And slowly, one of the first great civilizations on Earth was born. Long before pyramids, before mummies, and before pharaohs, the people of Egypt lived in small farming communities. They hunted animals, fished in the Nile, and traded with nearby regions. But over time, these villages became stronger, and eventually, Egypt split into two kingdoms: Upper Egypt in the south, and Lower Egypt in the north. The two kingdoms had different rulers, and different symbols, but they would not stay divided forever. Around 3100 BC, a warrior king rose to power. His name was Narmer, also called Menes. He conquered both kingdoms and united Egypt into one empire. This moment changed history forever, because now, for the first time, there was one Egypt. Narmer became Egypt's first pharaoh, and with him, the age of the pharaohs officially began. In ancient Egypt, pharaohs were not normal kings. The people believed pharaohs were chosen by the gods. Some even believed they were gods. The pharaoh controlled everything: the army, the laws, the land, the temples, and the massive building projects. But most importantly, the pharaoh was believed to maintain balance in the universe, a sacred force Egyptians called Ma'at. If the pharaoh failed, the Nile might stop flooding, crops could die, chaos would spread. So serving the pharaoh was considered a sacred duty. The Egyptians believed the world was filled with gods, hundreds of them, each controlling different parts of life. Ra was the sun god, one of the most important gods in Egypt. Every day, he sailed across the sky in a magical solar boat. And every night, he battled darkness in the underworld. Anubis had the head of a jackal. He protected tombs and guided souls into the afterlife. Horus, the falcon god, symbol of kingship and protection. Pharaohs believed they carried the spirit of Horus. Osiris ruled the underworld. He judged the souls of the dead. And according to legend, he was murdered by his own brother Seth. And then, there was Batet, the cat goddess. Yes, cats were sacred in ancient Egypt. Egyptians loved cats because they protected grain from rats and snakes. But eventually, cats became symbols of protection and divinity. If someone harmed a cat, they could face severe punishment. Most Egyptians were farmers. They lived simple but difficult lives. They woke up before sunrise and worked long hours in the fields. They grew wheat, barley, vegetables, and flax for making linen clothes. Without the Nile, none of this would exist. Rich Egyptians lived very differently. They wore fine jewelry, owned servants, and lived in large homes decorated with paintings. Even makeup was important. Men and women both used eyeliner. They believed it protected them from the sun and evil spirits. One of Egypt's greatest inventions was writing. The Egyptians created hieroglyphs, a system using symbols and pictures. Scribes were highly respected because very few people could read or write. They recorded taxes, religious texts, military victories, and royal history. They wrote on papyrus, an early form of paper made from Nile plants. And thanks to these writings, we still know about ancient Egypt today. As Egypt became wealthier, the pharaohs became more ambitious. This period became known as the Old Kingdom. And during this time, the pyramids were born. The first pyramid was built for Pharaoh Djoser. His architect, Imhotep, created a giant step pyramid. It was revolutionary. No one had ever built anything like it before, and it inspired even greater projects. Then came the greatest pyramids of all, the pyramids of Giza. The largest pyramid belonged to Pharaoh Khufu. It took decades to build and contained over 2 million stone blocks. Some weighed several tons. For thousands of years, it remained the tallest structure on Earth. And even today, it still amazes engineers. No modern cranes, no engines, no trucks. So how did they do it? Many believe workers used ramps, wooden sleds, and incredible teamwork. Thousands of laborers transported giant stones across the desert. Contrary to popular myth, most pyramid workers were not slaves. They were skilled workers and laborers. And building pyramids became a national project. Near the pyramids stands another mystery: the Great Sphinx, a giant creature with the body of a lion and the face of a pharaoh. No one knows exactly why it was built, and over thousands of years, the desert nearly buried it completely. The Egyptians believed death was not the end. It was only the beginning. When someone died, their soul traveled into the afterlife. But first, they faced judgment. In the underworld, Anubis weighed the person's heart against a feather. The feather represented truth. If the heart was heavy with evil, a monster called Ammit devoured the soul forever. But if the heart was pure, the soul entered eternal paradise. To survive forever, the body had to be preserved. So Egyptians perfected mummification. The process lasted around 70 days. First, the organs were removed. The liver, lungs, stomach, and intestines. They were stored in special containers called canopic jars. The brain was usually removed through the nose, because Egyptians believed the heart was the center of intelligence. The body was then covered in natron salt to dry it. Finally, it was wrapped in layers of linen and placed inside decorated coffins. Pharaohs were buried with unbelievable treasure: gold, jewelry, weapons, furniture, food, and even pets. They believed these items would be needed in the afterlife. So tombs became giant treasure chambers, which also made them targets for tomb robbers. The Egyptians were far more advanced than many people realize. They understood mathematics, astronomy, engineering, and medicine. They could calculate flooding seasons using the stars. They built complex irrigation systems, and some doctors performed surgeries. After periods of chaos, Egypt rose again during the Middle Kingdom. Trade expanded, art flourished, and Egypt became rich once more. But danger was approaching. A foreign group called the Hyksos invaded Egypt, and they brought terrifying new technology: horses and chariots. Egypt was conquered, but the Egyptians learned from their enemies, and eventually, they fought back. After defeating the Hyksos, Egypt entered its golden age, the New Kingdom. This was the era of massive armies, legendary pharaohs, and world domination. One ruler towered above the rest. Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great. He ruled for over 60 years, led huge military campaigns, and built gigantic monuments across Egypt. Some statues of Ramses were taller than buildings. He wanted one thing: to make sure the world never forgot him. And honestly, it worked. One of Egypt's most successful rulers was a woman, Hatshepsut. She expanded trade, built incredible temples, and brought prosperity to Egypt. But because many believed women should not rule, she sometimes dressed like a male pharaoh, even wearing a fake beard. Then came one of the strangest pharaohs in Egyptian history, Akhenaten. He rejected the old gods and tried to replace them with one god, Aten, the sun disk. This shocked Egypt. The priests became furious, and after Akhenaten died, most of his changes were erased. After Akhenaten, a young boy became pharaoh, Tutankhamun, King Tut. He ruled for only a short time and died mysteriously at around 18 years old. Some believe illness killed him. Others suspect murder. For more than 3,000 years, his tomb remained hidden. Until 1922, British archaeologist Howard Carter discovered the entrance. When asked if he saw anything inside, he famously replied, "Yes, wonderful things." The tomb was filled with treasure: golden beds, statues, chariots, and the legendary golden mask. It became one of the greatest discoveries in history. But then, the rumors began. People connected to the tomb started dying, and newspapers screamed about a curse. Scientists today believe the curse was mostly superstition, but the legend became immortal. Finally, we arrive at Egypt's last great ruler, Cleopatra. She was brilliant, spoke multiple languages, and understood politics better than almost anyone. She formed alliances with Roman leaders Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. But Rome was becoming unstoppable. After losing a massive war, Cleopatra faced defeat, and according to legend, she took her own life using a venomous snake. With Cleopatra's death, the age of ancient Egypt ended. Egypt became part of the Roman Empire. The temples slowly closed. The old religion faded. And over time, the desert buried much of Egypt's past. For centuries, nobody could read Egyptian hieroglyphs. The language was lost. Until 1799, when soldiers discovered the Rosetta Stone. The stone contained the same text written in multiple languages. And thanks to it, scholars finally decoded hieroglyphs. For the first time in thousands of years, ancient Egypt could speak again. Ancient Egypt survived for more than 3,000 years, longer than most civilizations in history. It gave the world incredible architecture, advanced medicine, engineering, writing, and endless mysteries. Even today, archaeologists continue discovering hidden tombs beneath the sand. And who knows, maybe the greatest secret of ancient Egypt hasn't been found yet. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient Egypt, subscribe for more stories about lost civilizations, ancient mysteries, and forgotten history. And comment below, what ancient civilization should we explore next? This is Ancient Vault, and we'll see you in the next adventure.